Hi everyone, Zoe here from Make It Crafty. I excuse my nasally voice today. It's cold season here in Australia and I am coming down with the cold, so I thought that before I can't talk anymore, I would quickly show you some techniques on using the light skin Copic colour set that I've put together. It's available in both sketch and chow on the makeitcrafty.com.au website. And included in this set is E00, E01, E11, E50 and E53, and it's a combination of light pinks and a light brown skin tone so that you get sort of olive complexion or a pink complexion. The images that I've stamped today are stamped with Memento ink on Express It blending paper. And I'm just going to quickly go through the different color combinations, and in another video I'll show you some techniques on how I color faces. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see a closer look, and hopefully I can do it without blurring it. Okay, so in this image I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is E00, and the idea is just to wet the page. So I'm just laying the base color down, getting the paper wet so that when I bring in my next colour, it's easier to blend. So the next colour I'm using is E01, and what I like to do is flick my next colour on, and I find that it's easier to blend back into the other colour, and often it will just blend itself. So just like that, and then I'm just going to come straight back in with E00, and what I'm doing here is I'm flicking it back into the colour, which blends it, as well as it pushes the ink the way that I want it to go. Rather than me bringing the colour out, I'm pushing it this way to make sure it doesn't come out any further. And of course I want to just blend that in with itself as well, so that it's an even coverage all the way across. And that's just a very nice light pale colour, and it's great for baby skins and things like that. Okay, so if we want to make that a little bit darker, we start off with our E00, and we wet the paper, so we put our base down. We do not have to be perfect at this point. We just want to put some ink down so that the other inks sit on top of this ink rather than going directly into the paper, so we have time to blend. So then I'm going to just bring in E01 again. And I've got my shading on this side. I'm matching my light source from here at the moment. I'm just bringing that across. And then I want to make that a little bit darker, so I'm going to bring in E11. And whilst it's still wet, I'm going to flick this in. I don't go completely to the edge of where I've just been. Come in a little bit, being very light. And then I can't blend E00 directly with E11 because it's too dark and it will actually push the ink away. So I'm going to bring in E01. It ends up working a little bit like the blender pen when you try to blend too dark colour with a lighter colour. And then now I can bring in my E00 and blend that back into the E01 and then with itself. So I'm using some little circles here and there, like so. So now I'll show you what the E50 tone is like. It's a little bit more yellow. So we put the base down. It's a nice light colour though. But with the E53, it's a great colour for shading. However, it is a little bit more difficult because it's quite a lot darker than this. So I always put the ink down first, especially when I am blending with E53, so that the E53 sits on top of the ink rather than going directly into the paper, which makes it a little bit harder to blend, I feel. So I'm being very, very light, tiny light flicks. I don't want to put too much of this ink down. I'm going to come back in with my E50, quickly blend that in. And then blend it back out into itself. Okay, and that's really nice. Like when you have those two colors together and you've got all your different characters, it looks like they've got a different look on your page and they're not all the same. Sorry, it's not quite fitting into the camera view. Okay, so I'm just going to move on. I'm going to do E50 and then I'm going to start with my little E50 yellow base. And what I want to do is just make it a little bit pink, as though maybe she's been running a little bit. She's been very busy collecting her berries and she's feeling a bit puffed out. So let's add EOO, just some pink around the edges here. This is really good if you just want to have a really light pink. You just want to, and it's great for fairies, I find. It makes it really nice and sweet. So I'm just going to bring in E01 just to give her some little bit more blush on her cheeks, but I'm still keeping it light, and I don't have to use a blush when I do it like this. And then I'm going to come back in with my EOO just to blend that blush in, and then finish off with my E50. Just go all the way over it all. Just like so, and it does look really nice and sweet.